tell me about your first client, and then within a year, you're up to 20 people. So tell me about this whirlwind experience that you had right out of the gate.
So a client that I was flying back and forth with to Newport Beach, I'd spend a week there and a week here. Obviously, Newport Beach is a lot more expensive than Oklahoma City. And what I asked him was, hey, instead of flying there and flying back and having to house me and pay me a salary, why don't you just let me develop leads and let's back into it at a per lead cost? Let me hire my own people here. It was a little bit cheaper. And so I started with one employee, and then, end of year, it wasn't even a whole year in business. It was like 6 months. We had done $1 million in revenue and had 20 employees. So it just kind of went off like gangbusters.
Yeah, that's incredible, and that's extreme scale in a year.
Mm-hmm.
And let's back up for the audience that doesn't know what Quintessa Marketing, what your company does. Like, tell us about Quintessa Marketing. How are you different from other PI lead gen companies? And that probably makes you cringe. So what is Quintessa Marketing?
Well, so Quintessa, pretty much what we say is we've elevated what a personal injury lead should be. So we take a car accident lead, whether it's something we develop in-house or get externally. We have an in-person or an intake team here in-house in Oklahoma City, so we have about 65 people. They vet that lead, and then they sign it up on the law firm's retainer. Now, we're not attorneys, so we aren't able to pull like accident reports or send letter of reps or anything like that. But the hardest thing to get done is to get the client signed up and to deal with managing your front of house staff. And that's something Quintessa has mastered. So that's what we do for the law firms.
Yeah, I would say there's a lot of marketing companies that the frustration occurs is where you generate the leads and then they're not signed up, and it's not necessarily a lead problem, it's a case intake problem.
Correct. And I think, lawyers go to law school to become a lawyer. You don't go to law school to become a marketer. So our goal for Quintessa is to become a concierge for attorneys and pretty much say, hey, let you be an attorney, let us be the marketer, let us be the intake specialist, let's get it signed up, and then it gives them back that time. And so that's what we've really tried to master.
One of the things that I've heard, and I'm sure you have an answer here, is when I mention lead gen, other companies, a lot of times the attorneys are immediately defensive and they'll say, oh, they just give us, nothing but bad leads. And does that come from where they don't do the full cycle, they don't do the intake, and they're kind of just sharing leads and selling them to multiple people? Is that where the intake team really shines in this qualification process?
I think at the end of the day, every lead gen that we've come across, they have some good leads. I think the problem is what the attorney's seeing is, let's say you're relying on Betty, and Betty just broke up with her boyfriend last night, and the 3 good leads that you were supposed to get were actually called 7 minutes after they came in. She called one time, she didn't leave a voicemail, so they're not converting. They immediately think, oh, it's the lead gen, right? And so what we have is a proven process of how they call, how they text, how they make sure they get on the phone. And that way it takes out if Betty breaks up with her boyfriend, we can spot it and we can pull her out. So then it doesn't affect the conversion rates.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then, so it's a very systematic checklist and systems and processes. Let's talk about on the intake side, just kind of staying there. I was listening to another one of your podcasts, and you talked about your pricing structure and how you compensate and incentivize your intake team to do a good job, and you actually have some intake reps doing quite well for themselves. So how does that lend itself to success in that department?
I think, for us, the biggest thing I never understood was when if some of these attorneys, they would spend, let's say, $500,000 a month on advertising spend, and then they would pay their people to answer the phone minimum wage, or let's say $10, $12 an hour. The problem is these people are your salespeople. So they are talking to them, and most people think, well, back in the day with TV, they were calling for you. Well, now they're not just calling for you. It's speed to lead. It's who your competitor is. It's who's going to get them signed up fast. It really comes down to, for a lot of these people, who's going to take care of me, who's going to set me up with treatment. So our intake people are incentivized. They make a really good hourly wage, but then each one of them, they're paid per lead that they sign that meets criteria. So it goes through a rigorous process on making sure that they crossed their T's, they dotted their I's, they were in compliance with everything that we asked them to be in compliance with, and then they're incentivized. They can't be late more than X amount of times per month. They can't miss. So it's incentivizing the right behavior. So our top guy is probably going to get like $6,000 or $7,000 this month in a bonus. And this is someone who doesn't have a formal education, which I don't either. And so that to me was a very important thing. Like, I am a eat what you kill, right? So like, if you are the top salesman, you should get a really handsome bonus from that. And so that's how we pay our employees. It's just a little bit different.
That's great. I love rewarding those top performers. I think so many times people try to coach up the people at the bottom, but like it's really focusing on the top and really rewarding those that are they're providing this excellent service. It's, in basketball, if you're going to have two teams of 5, you're going to focus on your starters, and the other people, they need to work on their own and develop themselves so they're indispensable. One of the other things too is to work with a company like yours. We got a lot of PI attorneys listening. What's a minimum investment? How do they approach working with you? For example, if I was going to sell pay-per-click services or SEO services, sometimes you have to have a sufficient budget. You have to have sufficient capitalization to do those types of channels. So what's it look like on the retainer side?
Yeah, so what we've seen, because our attorneys, they convert anywhere between 55 and 65%. 95% of our clients, though, are over that 65% threshold because they've worked with us for so long. We know each other really well. We know how they convert. So minimum investment for us is $25,000. And so what it ends up like pretty much baking out to is most of our guys are under a $2,000 cost per case, excluding crazy markets like California, right? That's a little bit different. But just for the norm, they're getting a blend of commercial, blend of motor vehicle. 30% of it normally is commercial, so it gives you access to higher policies, and it's coming in at that CPA. So I would say the money's one thing, but that to us is not the most important thing. To us, it's your processes and your people. And so what we want to know is that you're a partner. So at the end of the day, this is not a, hey, Quintessa works for John Doe Law Firm. What it is Quintessa and John Doe Law Firm, we are partnering together to bring these leads in. We are going to try and make our processes better, your processes better. We're going to work together to make sure that you're pretty much maximizing every single lead and not leaving any stone unturned. So we look at ourselves that way and we align ourselves that way. So it's a little bit different approach than what most lead gens do.